You're listening to Keeba-Live. Let's talk with a man with a loud microphone. Here he is, your host and mine, William Lee. Welcome, everybody. It's great to be with you tonight on a Monday night. Very unusual for us to be on a Monday night. But, I was looking through the social media, different platforms, and looking on the media news, and thinking to myself, man, this is the worst time for America that I can think of. I listened to a podcast that a chief of police in Renton, Washington, was involved in, and when he said the crime by juveniles, now these are kids that are between the ages of 13 and 16, has risen by 900%. That's 900% in Ruston, in, South King County, Renton, and further over to the other side of the world, Kent, Washington, coming down in through Covington, it looks like the crime spree has gone nuts. I even lose my train of thought when I think about the violence that we are now facing by juveniles. Every time you turn around, there's another shooting, 4 or 5 shot. And I don't know if they're arguments, if it's gang-related violence, if it's a situation of I've been bullied and I'm going to get even. Is it from pressure at school? It's pressure at home, dysfunctional families, lack of parenting. I get so wound up that I get speechless. I completely zone out, as I did at the beginning of this podcast, just thinking about the factor that maybe Johnny across the street that you always say hello to hops on his bicycle and runs right down the store, riding his bike and in a happy-go-lucky, having a wonderful time on a beautiful day. A car pulls up, the window rolls down, and bang, that boy is laying on the ground. For what reason, nobody seems to know. Or maybe it's at the bus stop where cars pull around, park like the shooting in Pennsylvania, or other towns, and just park. They jump out of the car, they load the guns, and they open fire. We're in fear. This is a war zone. And if we don't start getting the doggone politicians to quit yakking about each other's lifestyle, finances, and lack of ability to do anything that will help us protect ourselves, what are we going to do? Now, elections coming up, as I've said 5 or 6 times in our different podcasts. Are we supposed to elect these people again and again and have this continuance of violence continue? The economy is flattening out faster than a pancake with the heat turned off on a grill. What is going on out here? Is America actually falling apart like the Roman Empire? Are we self-destructing ourselves? Oh, it is horrible to think of what's been going on in the last 3 to 4 years and what could happen in the next 4 or 5 years. America is right now on her knees trying to stand back up and pull herself back together again to be the land of the free. But what's happening? Our borders are wide open. Terrorists are bringing in fentanyls. 114,000 confirmed deaths from fentanyl overdoses. And what's our president doing? Well, let's bring on more of these wonderful people from different countries. Just let them invade our country. I don't care if he's a Democrat, a Whig, or Republican. He ain't using what we need to be used, and that's the tools to protect this country from outside invaders. Now, I'm not saying that everybody coming across that wonderful entrance into our country is a terrorist. But I will bet you money a very good portion of those are dope runners, traders for sex, individuals snapping up kids, and fentanyl poisoners pouring in, getting that fast cash. If we get caught, what the heck? We get just deported. We can come back when nobody's looking and run through the water, up the stone side of the hill, and once again disappear into America. I saw one article where a lady who dabbles in a little bit of fentanyl once in a while, has been deported from this country just a couple of weeks ago for the fourth time. 4 times. And had over 200 pounds of fentanyl ready for distributing. What did they do? Well, they confiscated the fentanyl, of course. I guess they patted her on the head or whatever, put the handcuffs on, stuffed her all paperwork that she needed, sent her back, and said, goodbye, you're out of here. You're out of this country. I will bet you that she'll be back before we have a new president elected. They are not going to keep these people out. As long as that doorway to America is wide open, we are going to suck up the low-life scums from every country around us. It is incredible, isn't it? And what are we regular people supposed to do about these things? Stop and think about it. The senior citizens are now getting scared more and more after the pandemic scare to leave their home in fear they're going to be robbed, shot, carjacked, or a home invasion. Is this the way to live? These are people that built America, that spent their time, their life, their livelihoods, who deserve now to retire, not fearing that the politicians are going to lie about the Social Security and say all the money's gone while they're loading their pockets, or, no, think about this for a minute, or are they going to really take action and not worry about having a gun in the house? Well, the politicians are very, very blunt about this. I mean, we've got rid of part of the artillery, and I agree with it. Army or Navy or any military gun that is designed for warfare shouldn't be available in the public use and in the homes. It's simple as that. However, I stand the right to have and be armed in case of invasion of your home. Americans have the right to shoot and protect their families. But I guess the politicians figure, well, we'll take the bunt stock away. Okay, that'll shake them all up. The AR-15s and all these other rifles that are made for military action, well, we're getting rid of those one by one as we classify them. Now, I want you to remember something. In the bad old days of Al Capone, they used Tommy guns, which were .45 caliber machine guns, which were designed for World War I. But due to some technical problems, they were scrapped. The program was scrapped out. But the hands of the mafia got a hold of the wonderful, I guess you would call equalizers at that time, and hopped in their cars and shot up bars that would not cooperate. The gang wars, really, truly, like the Valentine Day Massacre in the garage, where you just pull the trigger and wipe out your competitors. They don't agree with you, wipe them out. What the heck? Get rid of them. Get them off the streets by shooting them. We've even gone even further than the mob, because if you stop and think about it, very seldom did you ever hear about a mob hit that wiped out a family of maybe one of the guys that, well, he wasn't playing the right rules at the right time, pocketing a few extra dollars, or telling Capone or some of the other Babyface Nelson or some of the other Bonnie and Clyde type people to go stuff it in their pockets and leave him alone. No, they wiped out the individual but left the family. Right now, we have 14, 15-year-olds that don't care. They'll wipe out anything that moves in the belief that all of a sudden the violence is now a controlling part that makes them powerful, more powerful than a speeding bullet. Yeah, more powerful, all right. And our courts are becoming crowded, but don't worry about it, because in many cases, as in the state of Washington, where law enforcement people say it takes longer to book them in, handcuff them, put them in the car, tell them their rights, drop them off at the jail, and before you can get done with your daily reporting as an officer, they're back out on the street. Well, wait a minute, I take that back. The judge will say, now, you take Johnny home and make sure he gets into school tomorrow. Take him home, and we'll discuss this in a couple of weeks. You bring him back. In the meantime, he's in your custody. That is great, isn't it? So in the meantime, if the parent is dysfunctional but showed up anyway, well, maybe they needed to stop at the bar, pick up a six-pack, and they were on their way to the courthouse, they throw Johnny in the car, go home, and within a couple of hours, Johnny's out the bedroom window, back on the street, with his buddies who load him up with a brand new 45 or a 9mm and send him out. Hey, man, we got things to do. We got these dudes, man. They're in our territory, man. We got to run them out. And carelessly jump into automobiles, driving up and down the streets at speeds that are not safe, armed, in cars that they've stolen. Wow, doesn't this make a lot of sense? And meanwhile, the rest of us that try to defend ourselves have to watch out because, well, Mr. Jones, that's true that young man pulled out a machine gun on you and took a couple of shots at your house, but they weren't inside your house. So when you return fire, that's dangerous, brandishing a weapon and firing it. You'll have to go to jail or be fined, and your weapons will be taken away from you. This is a crock of crap. There is no reason in the world that we should have to face this type of garbage when it comes, nor do arrest people, in other words, those who skip out on the judge's court hearings, etc., should not understand that it's simply this. Here's the laws. Here's how we're going to defend, protect, and when the time comes in court, these are the laws that are going to make the decision of what happens to you. That does not mean you go home and make sure Johnny gets into school the next day, and we'll talk to him about these hard things. It is absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? But no, we're too busy yelling about the Republicans. And the Republicans, well, I would say probably 75% of them, are trying to do a decent job as far as it's 25 to 30% of the Democrats are trying to do. But unfortunately, the balance is out of control, and both sides of the aisle are practically, particulating different bills that they're trying to resurrect that naturally has maybe like in the state of Washington where the stripper bill just was passed and signed into law, protecting strippers. I mean, a very important law. Meanwhile, we have shootings going on. Where right now, the state of Washington is wonderfully got themselves into another bind, and this one's a serious one. We're 50 to 59% understaffed in law enforcement officers. Talked to a law enforcement officer, Pierce County Sheriff. Boy, he's putting in a lot of hours, and I looked at him. I said, man, you must be tired. He says, no, we have to take mandatory overtime. I said, oh, wow, that must be tough, man, working 12-hour days. Well, some of us have to. And then I said, why? Because there's nobody else. We don't have enough manpower. The criminals have enough criminals, but we don't have enough manpower. And, of course, to make you feel better and wanting to go into law enforcement, go through the cadet training, field training, and officer training, it makes you feel also better that we have an attorney general wants to make sure that you put the handcuffs on properly. They're not too tight, or the wrists don't chafe where the handcuffs were at, or you didn't say, are you having a really bad day, Mr. Jones, because you just robbed that store? Would you like to hold my angry doll and just hug it? I'll take the handcuffs off for a moment so you can hug the doll, the angry doll, so then I can handcuff you and take you back to jail? Something that the great professor of child psychology, Dr. Becky Bailey, would use. In fact, we're using it on our children now in many schools areas before they go to, kindergarten. I always get concerned on that one. But back to the subject at hand, when the Attorney General doesn't see the actual, I'd say, loving approach to apprehension, he turns on his own fellow people and prosecutes officers and anybody involved, or makes it rough for them to keep a job. Because we know now that we must be kind. This is ridiculous. This is the same man that says he's running for governor. Won't it be wonderful? Won't these senior citizens of Washington be happy if he's elected as governor to this state? Think about that for just a few moments. That should give you heartburn right there. Why in the world would we want a leader to do anything of that nature? Why would we want somebody to continue to huddle the actual criminal activities while they're working on their great speech to be elected as the most powerful man in our state? We've got violence in Tacoma, gun violence, people moving out of Tacoma. They're afraid they're going to get shot. We've got businesses closing up because of homelessness, violence, and fentanyl abuse, drug abuse, overdoses of individuals dying on sidewalks. But yet we have politicians that are worried about what their reputation is or what they can't or can do to make everything better for us. Now, when I say can and can't, I'm simply saying covering up their butts because election, that's money, that's power. It has nothing to do with we, the middle-class, hard-working community people that are the mainstream that have built this state, have built this country. And we are the ones that make a decision on who goes to represent us as a leader in a real, I would say, journey of leadership to build and continue our economic safety, to keep our businesses going, to protect our citizens, to protect our law enforcement people, and to open the courthouse doors. We vote those people in. And if we don't right now draw a line in the sand and come back and say, and I quote, enough is enough. I've had enough. We elect you. We can put you out of that office. We are your employer. We are the ones that make the difference if you will survive for another 3-4 years, whatever your term is, until the next election. It should be an election that shows that individual leaders in the progress they've made. For instance, making it to the point where we can get more law enforcement officers to not worry about being prosecuted when they do their job as they were trained to do. That would be a good starting point. Number 2, the grocery prices are continuing to climb. We need more economic sanctions to help the entrepreneurs open their stores again. The entrepreneurs that depend on law and order to be able to open their stores, make their business work, and give back to their communities. But when you're being in the situation of you have to tell your employees what time to come in, where to park the car, make sure you lock that car down, slip into the back door. Don't try to come through the front door because you have to wear boots to step over the urine and feces on the sidewalk. How is business supposed to survive with all that? Does anybody have any idea at all? Well, I sure don't, and I wish I did. Because as an entrepreneur myself, semi-retired, doing podcasting, because I want people to wake up and say, let's talk. Let's start a conversation. Let's start with the leadership of this country and work our way back to the grassroots that built this nation. I'm tired of seeing multicolored flags and being forced into belief that, they got to flag these flyers and flags and posters. I don't care what your sexual identity is, okay, and what you believe or all that. My theory is simply this. You're old enough to make up your own mind. And in America, you can do these things with the freedom and safety in your lives. But don't trespass on my life because I don't believe in what you're doing. I believe that a male is delivered in this great world by God as a male, or a female is brought to life in this great land of ours as a female. That's perfectly, I would say, a decision that is founded on fact. And in this particular case, when time comes for you to make other decisions, you have the right to do so. But remember, the rest of us have the right to ignore you. But do we have to have your flags posted around our house? Do we have to have all this continual media hype on what's going on? And then we watch our schools deteriorate because all of a sudden the schools are so liberal-minded now, like the criminals, that A, our kids go to school with the fear they might be shot, so you got to get them over that, okay? Number two, we got to make sure that our kids are properly taken care of at home and parented at home so that somebody doesn't say, now, Johnny, for Pete's sake, I saw you with a doll. And, you know, when you go to kindergarten, that might be a dangerous time. And start the children thinking about their sexuality before they even start school. And then when they finally get into school and turn to be 7, 8 years old, oh, Johnny, I knew it. I think you need to be counseled. Now, don't tell your parents, because in the state of Washington, when you hit 13, if we're correct and you should be a girl instead of a boy, you have the right, thanks to some idiot in Olympia who wrote that bill and a governor that obviously, I don't know what he's doing, but he's retiring, which will help us all. I don't know what his viewpoint was on taking children away from their families and putting them into an environment that they are already concerned about their identity, but then confuse them further and put them into an environment that I don't believe is right to begin with. You have no right as a government to take children away from their parents. It does not exist unless the child is in danger. Their life's in danger, then I can understand it. But when GPS steps in or all these other groups, oh, Johnny, you come with us, Johnny. You don't have to worry about your parents. No, we'll take care of you. And if we need to, we'll put you on medication. And we will let doctors butcher you by removing organs and changing your sexual identity. Oh, that sounds something like a Frankenstein movie, doesn't it? When Boris Karloff looks over Frankenstein, and now I'll give you life, and flips the switch. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? All this adds up to what? Frustration, number one. Number two, lack of good education in school systems, which we're seeing now because they're too busy teaching sexual identity and not math, reading, and the things that are needed for test scores to show that you have actually stimulated the brain cells of a young child to make him think about, or her, about goal setting, careers, family, normal stuff. We don't have time to do that anymore in schools. Well, all we have is time to, take care of the counseling, build schools that are like penitentiaries, because we've got to the point now where, unfortunately, students are bullied and schools don't take proper and quick action with law enforcement to get things under control, because you wouldn't want a police officer on the school grounds or monitoring school activity. That's terrible. Oh, a student to see a grown man with a bulletproof vest on, a gun, and maybe even leading a dog around the school to protect the kids from some idiotic child whose parents say, oh, Johnny, here's a gun for you. You go and play with that later and go out and shoot out there with your buddies out there. Don't worry, I'll buy you a box of ammunition. Yeah. And Johnny says, hey, that's wonderful. Slips it in his backpack, goes to school and kills 4 or 5 people. We've already seen that, haven't we? We've seen enough school shootings. We've seen enough violence. Senior citizens have seen enough violence. Home invasions. I didn't even know the word existed until a few years ago, when all of a sudden that's all you hear about. And today it's even worse. Car theft by juveniles? Never. Social media jumps in there, and all of a sudden, juveniles have the right now to, oh, wait a minute, that's a Kia. I saw it on TikTok how you can steal that car. And bang, they steal the car. They feel great about it. They get involved with gangs, and they find themselves driving that car through the front of somebody's business and cleaning out that business in under 2 minutes and getting away with it. Now, here's understandably the problem that we have, of course. First of all, well, nowadays kids can't really afford $1,000 to learn how to drive a car. But wait, for absolutely nothing but TikTok's audience, they learned how to steal that car. They take Kias and Hondas and steal them by the carloads. What's happened to the senior citizens on that issue? You're probably thinking, well, what should happen to them? I'll tell you what. If they have car insurance, it just goes up another 6%, as what is happening now in the state of Washington. Slowly, they're moving up to 6% increase. Senior citizens on fixed incomes cannot survive with increases every 5 minutes because of law and order that is not being taken care of. So therefore, they lose all they have in the automobile. Now, should I buy food for this week or should I pay my car insurance so that I can go see the kids and see how they're doing? I am absolutely sick of the whole situation. And as far as I'm concerned, me and my loud mic want to talk. We want you to wake up and start talking. Start pushing on our leadership. Do not back up, even if you agree or disagree with me, and go outside and bury your head in the sand. It is time to start the move for common sense forward. The time to start the move that I am an American citizen, I have rights, and I want my rights heard by the people that I vote into offices. And if they can't listen, or they're so greedy that they're not listening and lying to me, then I have the right to wave at them goodbye and put somebody else in that office. And the only way we're going to get this done is if we have to, one by one, start a communication of conversation. We'll win if we all stick together. Right now, I believe that on the top of the mountain, there's a rock, and it's called America. And in that rock belongs all of our rights, the Constitution that our forefathers put together. I think it's time now that that rock start rolling down the hill. And while it's rolling, we, American, the little class, as we're called so affectionately, get behind that rock and even push it harder so it goes faster. So when the elections come up this time, this presidential election, which I've already said the last one would be the worst one in the history of this country, let's turn it around. Let's make this one coming up in 2014 the best. Let's get behind new blood, new leaders. Let's throw out the ones that are lying to us, robbing us, and ruining our families. Well, I guess that's me for ranting and raving and becoming speechless and stuttering. I hope that somebody out there has heard what I have to say. I'm proud of America. I'm an American, and I will stand to fight to keep my country free so that everyone can have the opportunity of the choice of the lifestyle, freedoms, and goals that they want to acquire. That's my life message to everyone. Start a conversation, and we can all do just that. No matter the color of our skin, no matter who or where we've come from, we are an American born here. We need to fight for our land. If you have any, shall we say, points that you'd like to talk to me about, maybe you're disgusted on what I said. Maybe you think, wow, that guy should shut up. Hey, here's what you do. Email at me at Keeba, Keeba agency, @gmail.com. And then let me know what you think. Or go to our website that we're finishing up now, which is, are you ready? keepasmiling.com. There's a microphone, and you can leave me an audio message if you wish. If you want to challenge this and you want to get on the show, you have a topic you want to talk about that is concerning America, concerning what we're trying to do on this podcast, please let me know. I can set you up to either chat with you, put together a real good sound audio with you, and we'll play it on the show or even extend you to come on our show anytime we're on the air. So thank you very much for tonight. I appreciate you listening. I want you to think of one thing tonight. In fact, you should think of this every night. Thank the Lord for your health, for your wisdom, for your family, and for your country. If you do that, you'll always keep a smiling.